Hey, what is up, guys? This is Chris, and I'm back with more Everyday RC and my TLR 8Ight-T 4.0 Nitro Truggy. And this is part 6 of the build series, and I'm super excited about it. And I know that this is the moment that most of you have been waiting for, the installation of the engine. That's right. So this is basically the heart and lungs of the unit, and I'm ready to do this. I'm super excited. And I had to acquire a bunch of parts here to complete this step. So for those of you that have been following along, you'll know that in my last video, part 5, I finished the installation of the electronics. And I have the servo tray, the servos, the receiver, and the RX all hooked up. So that is completed, and that was a great step to finally finish. If you haven't checked out part 5, go check that out. So now we are moving on to step G1, the installation of the engine. I am so excited. So I could make a video just about this engine, but I'm going to incorporate as much info about it in this one video so that you guys can become familiar with it. And I know a lot of you were asking what engine I decided to go with, and this is the Lrp Zr.32X Spec 4X series. And this is similar to their previous engine that was known as the Lrp .32, but this does have some improvements done to it. For those of you that are familiar with Nitro, if you got the previous Lrp .32, it came with a pull start and a one-way bearing. So if you wanted to use what's called a bump start, you'd have to pick up the back plate and remove the pull start and the one-way bearing and install this back plate into the engine. And I'm so happy that they came out with this new X series engine, because now it comes with the back plate already installed, so you don't have to worry about removing that pull start and removing that one-way bearing, which just robs you of essential power. So this engine is beautiful, and one of the reasons why I went with the Lrp engine, it was a toss between the Lrp .32X series or a NOVAROSSI 28.8. I went with the Lrp only because at the present time of this video, Lrp could possibly be going out of business, and these engines are very hard to come by, which is unfortunate because they just released this Spec 4X series engine, and now Lrp could possibly be discontinuing their services. So I wanted to get one of these before it was unavailable, and I probably will be picking up a NOVAROSSI 28.8 engine as well, but for the time being, this is what I went with, and I'm going to be using this engine stock. It does have some improvements from the previous engine, from the previous Lrp .32, and I do have a few notes right here. This engine comes with a 19.8 millimeter bore, a 17 millimeter hub, and the comparison of this engine as opposed to the previous Lrp was only 4.37 horsepower. This one is 4.59 horsepower, so there's a little bit of a bump up on the horsepower on here. The previous Lrp only revved out at 33,300 RPMs. This one's revving at 34,900 RPMs. So you're getting more than 1,000 more RPMs out of this engine. It also has 2 extra ports. The previous Lrp only had a 5-port. This has 7 ports. They both have the 15S-2 carburetor, although there are some differences supposedly with this carburetor, helping it release some of the heat issues inside the carb. And it said it's a thermal protected carburetor, so we'll see. As you can see, it says right here, thermal protected carb, the 15S-2 carb. It's aluminum, and I'm definitely anxious to see how well it runs and consistent the running is of it. And this engine, I don't know if it's only because it doesn't come with the pull start and the one-way bearing, it's definitely lighter. The original Lrp 32 was 420 grams. This one is only 345 grams. So you're getting a lighter engine with more power, more RPMs. Can't beat that. So I did receive this in the box, and about a week ago or so, I did just, which is a good idea, you want to install some oil. I installed some 3-in-1 oil. This is just a very good quality oil to drop in your engines. You can use after run oil. This is some final run that I've used, but this doesn't have a long-lasting effect. You know, this is something you might want to use when you're immediately done running your unit after it's cooled down, but not for long-term storage. The 3-in-1 oil is excellent for long-term storage. So I did remove the glow plug and drop some in on the top of the piston. I removed the plug off the carburetor and I dropped some 3-in-1 down into the front of the crankshaft, and as you can see, what you would do is open the venturi. Basically open the venturi, drop some into the front of the crankcase, and I did drop some in the back of the cylinder right here. And you always want to make sure that your piston is at bottom dead center, BDC. When I received it, the piston was up inside the sleeve. Sorry about shaking around so much. So the piston was up like that. You always want to drop your piston down to the bottom of the sleeve, just so that it's a safe place for the piston to sit. You don't want this piston to be up inside the sleeve and possibly get seized in there. And especially when you're done braking in your engine, when you're letting it cool down, when you're done after every run, you want to drop your piston down to the bottom of the sleeve and let it cool down in there. You never want your sleeve to shrink and contract on your piston, because then you could definitely run into some issues down the line. So that's it right now. I just wanted to really just go a little in depth about this engine and how pumped I am about it. And I also wanted to point out, it comes with the 9.0 venturi already installed on it. It does come with a few already in the box, but I'm going to be using the 9. As you can see, it comes with some material in here. It comes with .7.5 and it comes with the 8.5, but I'm happy to see that it comes with the 9.0 already installed, and that's the one I will be utilizing. So moving on from the engine, there are some videos that you can look if you want additional information about the engine. You could probably find them on YouTube, but I just wanted to tell you why I decided to go with this engine, and I can't wait to get it installed. And now moving on to accompany this awesome engine. As you can see, I picked up a bunch of NOVAROSSI parts. So I know a lot of you were asking what exhaust pipe I went with. This is the 9886 exhaust pipe, and it's definitely a thing of beauty. Polished it up just a little bit. It came in a little on the dull side, so I got some nioxin and I gave it a quick polish. Nothing crazy, just to bring out some of that luster in it. And as you can see, NOVAROSSI, Italy. Keeping with my heritage, which is pretty cool. So yes, so this is the NOVAROSSI 9886 exhaust pipe. Beautiful. And to accompany that, I went with the 4.0 header pipe from NOVAROSSI. There's the part number, made in Italy, which is pretty cool. So those two are going to go hand in hand. And I also picked up, which is definitely something to think about, this is the NOVAROSSI exhaust gas cooler. EGC is basically what it's called. And look at this piece, guys. It looks absolutely beautiful. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with what it is, there's the part number in case you were just wondering. It's basically an exhaust gas cooler. And what it does is it removes the heat from the exhaust gas that returns to the fuel tank via the pressure in the fuel line. And it lowers the temps of the fuel and increases runtime. So basically, for those of you that are unfamiliar with how a nitro engine works, your fuel pressure is gauged by the exhaust pressure that's going back into the fuel tank. So the fuel tank will build pressure and then pump the fuel back to the engine. And when these exhaust gases go from this fuel line back into your tank, it can be high in temperature. So basically what this is going to do is this is going to go in line between the fuel line going from the return from the exhaust pipe going back to the tank, and in essence, as the fuel travels through here, through this beautiful heat sink from NOVAROSSI, it's going to cool the temps of the gas and the gas pressure going back into the engine. So it's pretty cool. So I've seen a few people use this, and I'm hoping that it works. And really what it's going to do is it's just going to cool down the exhaust gases going back into the tank. In essence, it should give you longer run times, keeping your fuel at a lower temperature. So I picked that up from NOVAROSSI as well. There's the part number right there. And then I picked up a 15-tooth clutch bell because I wanted to get a good balance between bottom end and top end. I believe this is the bell that comes with the kit, and it's a 12-tooth bell. I wanted to go with something a little bit more, so I went with a 15-tooth clutch bell. And to go along with this, I went with the DYNAMITE Max Life clutch shoes. So these are the clutch shoes they want you to install. These are 2 plastic and 2 aluminum clutch shoes. I could have went with those, but they're probably not going to last a long time. So I figured right off the bat, why not go with the DYNAMITE Max Life clutch shoes. And these are actually aluminum. They look plastic, but they're actually aluminum clutch shoes. And just hoping to get a little bit more life out of them, hence the name Max Life, right? I picked up some additional clutch bell bearings. Although the kit does come with clutch bell bearings, it's always good to have an extra set of those. And as you can see, we're going to be installing the air filter system on here, and this is the air filter system that comes with the kit. Although I heard some good things about this. Now this is completely out of my element, but this is the R2C air filter system for nitro engines, and it's a HEPA filter. And it says that there's no cleaning involved, no oiling as well. You're basically just going to install this on the unit. It does have a pre-filter that goes on there, and you don't even have to oil the pre-filter. And I guess when you're done using it, it's cleanable. You can just blow it out with some compressed air. I'm a little skeptical over it. I feel a little bit more comfortable with oiled air filters, but this thing looks beautiful, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. So for the break-in, I think I'll give it a shot. It's supposed to add more airflow into your engine, so I'm gonna go with that one. And that's about it for this step, guys. So I can't wait to get this thing installed. I didn't want to make this video too long-winded, but I definitely wanted to go in a little further in depth about this engine and you know, basically how excited I am. So as you can see, I'm going to move on here. I got all my parts laid out, got my flywheel all laid out, all my necessary parts to complete this step. I might have to do some modifications when it comes down to mounting the exhaust pipe, only because just the fitment on this might be a little bit different. So I'm gonna have to make a modified exhaust bracket, but we'll see what happens when we get to that step. So enough talking from me. Let's move on to step G1, get our clutch shoes and our flywheel installed, and let's make it happen. All right, guys, let's do this. Moving on to step G1, as you can see, going to be installing the flywheel, the clutch shoes, the clutch springs, and I have everything laid out over here. So we have the flywheel, we have the collar, and these are the various clutch springs that come supplied with the kit. I just wanted to point something out here. They do give you part numbers for what they're telling you to install. Now, like I had said before, they want you to use the 2 composite and 2 aluminum clutch shoes, which I will not be using. I am going to be using the Max Life aluminum clutch shoes. So if you're building the kit, just take that into account, but I will be disregarding that because I'm using the Max Life shoes. And they're telling you to use the LOSA 9113, 2 of them, as you can see. Those are the green springs, and the LOSA 9114s, which are the gold springs. So as you can see, they supply you with the silver. A little confusing. The secondary ones here are the green, although they do not look green to me. They look more gunmetal. These are the gold and the black. So they want you to use 2 of the green and 2 of the gold. I will not be using those, however. Since I'm using this stock Lrp 32, I decided that I'm going to use 2 green and 2 silver. Now, I had picked up a set of green clutch springs, and as you can see, these are brand new. These are the LOSA 9113s, and as you can see, they do not look green at all. They're more of a gunmetal color, so that was just to confirm that they are not green, because I was confused with the kit. So for those of you that are wondering, the green springs, the LOSA 9113s, are not green. They are actually the gunmetal ones. So I'm going to be using 2 of the LOSA 9113s and 2 of the silver. I believe these are lighter springs, so just because of the power of this engine, I'm going to use 2 green, 2 silver. If I were to modify this engine, I was going to use all 4 green clutch springs, because I believe they are the stiffest springs available for the kit. But I will be using 2 green and 2 silver. So as you can see, you're going to install the flywheel, and I'll show you how to do this. First, what you want to do is you want to remove your glow plug, and you're going to want to be using a piston stop tool. So let me remove the glow plug, install the piston stop tool, and I'll show you how I do this. Okay, as you can see, I used my 8mm hex wrench and I removed the glow plug. You want to make sure you get the brass washer off as well. And you want to put your piston down at bottom dead center, BDC, and you want to screw in very carefully your piston stop tool. And you don't want to crank this down too tight, you just want to tighten it down till it stops. Nice and snug. Okay, and then this will basically stop your piston when you're going to tighten down your lock nut right here on the crankshaft of the engine. So let me get everything installed, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, before I install the flywheel, real quick, I just wanted to point it out that you do have to install your collar, and to slide it over the crankshaft, you're just going to want to take a screwdriver and pry it open here at the opening and slide it over there. And they are telling you to apply thread locker. So as you can see, there is a cutaway right there on the shaft, and you're going to want to just spread that open to slide that over. I put a few drops of Loctite on the crankshaft just to prevent that collar from sliding around. Then you're going to slide your flywheel over, and I'm going to put some thread locker on those threads when I install my lock nut. Alright, let's get it done. Okay, I have the flywheel installed, and I just wanted to show you how I did so with my 8mm hex wrench. And you basically just want to tighten that down nice and snug. You don't want to over tighten it because you do have your piston stop, so you don't want to damage or compromise the top of the piston. And I installed a little bit of thread locker on there, and now the flywheel is fully installed. So next is moving on to installing the clutch shoes and clutch springs, and I'll show you that when it's all finished. Alright guys, finished up step G1, have everything installed here. Got my Max Life clutch shoes, and as you can see, I used the green springs on these corners here, and then I used the silver springs on this corner and this corner, and everything is installed nicely. You want to leave your piston stop in. I installed thread locker on the posts here, and yeah, as you can see, this is basically how the clutch shoes are going to operate. They're going to expand as the motor is turning, and the different rate springs are going to control when the clutch shoes engage on the clutch bell. So yeah, super excited. Everything worked out pretty good, and now I'm going to move on to step G2 right here. As you can see, step G1 has been completed, and now we're going to move on to step G2, the installation of the clutch bell. As I stated before, I'm going to be using the 15-tooth clutch bell on here. So let me get that all completed. Going to install my spacers here, my clutch bearings, spacer, this retainer right here, and the end screw with a little thread locker on the end of the crankshaft. So let's get step G2 completed, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Alright guys, all finished with step G2. As you can see, we have the clutch bell bearing installed, the 15-tooth everything is very smooth. As you can see, just keeps on spinning. There's really no resistance at all. Very happy with that. Now there is just a slight bit of play right here. Nothing too crazy, very minimal. Just wanted to point something out real quick. With step G2, as you can see, you have one spacer here, then your bearing, then a clutch bell, then your outside bearing, another spacer, your retainer, and then the screw. The kit does supply you with 4 of the LOSA 6356s. I installed 1 on the inside and 2 on the outside just to take some of that play out of the clutch bell. I probably could go with another one on the inside, but for right now I think it's okay. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. I'm pretty happy with the fitment on this. So that's where we're at right now, guys. Look at this. Check it out. Have a complete, almost a complete assembled engine. So now, moving on. Check it out, we're on step G3, the installation of the engine to the engine mount and the header pipe and exhaust. So I'm really excited about this. I might even move forward to step G4, the installation of the air filter as well. So let me get step G3 and G4 completed, and then I'm going to show you what this completed engine finally looks like with all the components. Oh yeah, before I forget, one other final little tip. As you can see right here, if I can focus in, you see that mark that I made right there on the flywheel? Now this is a bit of a trick for you guys. So like I said, whenever you're done running your nitro engine, you're going to want to drop your piston down the bottom dead center. So once it's mounted on the engine, it's going to be kind of hard for you to know when the piston is at bottom dead center. So a trick is you mark your flywheel here at the bottom. As you can see, I made this mark right here. So I'll be able to look under the truck and see that mark and automatically know that when I rotate the engine in that position, the piston will be at bottom dead center. So I definitely suggest you doing that. You could take some Sharpie or a marker and mark it there, but that typically ends up coming off. So I just made a slight scratch mark right there on the flywheel just to take notice of where bottom dead center is. So now there's no more guesswork. Anytime that's at the bottom, you'll know that the piston is at bottom dead center. Oh yeah, guys, check it out. Been a long time waiting. Look at this completed engine. Now I will say that that looks pretty damn sexy myself. Wow. Alright, so I completed steps G1, G2, G3, and G4. As you can see, I have the 4.0 header pipe installed and the 9886 exhaust pipe and my air filter system here, the RC2 air filter system. Going back to the header, you can see I joined it up with the engine block using the spring. And for those of you that don't have a spring installation tool, you can use tools similar to this. These are, I believe, Cobalt, and they're just pick tools. This is a right angle. This one is a hook tool right here, and you're just basically going to pull that, and then hook them into the holes right there supplied. I went with the top holes for the header pipe and your 3 springs right here that join the header pipe to the exhaust pipe right there. Looks beautiful, right? Now I have installed the air filter system, although I'm not going to secure it just yet, because once I get this hooked up to my servos in the truck, you're going to want to check the throw of your carburetor venturi right here. So you're going to want to check that real quick. So I'm not going to final install this. As you can see, RC2 kit comes with some rings and a zip tie, which I always like to put a zip tie around this part that goes around your carburetor right here, only because you do not want that falling off while you're driving. That would be the death of your engine right there. So anytime that I've ever installed my air filter system on a nitro engine, I always like to put a zip tie, and I'm probably going to be putting zip ties around this and this. I might not be using the supplied brass rings that they give you in this kit, only because I feel like they don't fit right. I haven't installed my pre-filter, but that's going to go around there. I just wanted you to see the HEPA filtration as it is right now. And yeah guys, I got the motor mount all set up here. Put some thread locker on my screws down in here. As you can see, installed that, cleaned it off with some degreaser and installed some thread lock. Got my exhaust pipe system all hooked up, and now we're moving forward to getting it installed. Now as you can see, this is the installation of the air filter kit. As you can see, they suggest that you use a zip tie, which I always use. And now it's moving on to getting the engine fully installed and getting your gear mesh properly set. They suggest that you use a piece of paper here to get your gear mesh properly set. I'm pretty familiar with how to do that. Then we will be mounting it into the truck. Now right here in step G6, sorry I'm skipping around a lot, they want you to install your pipe mount right here and the hanger bracket right here. I might have to do some modifications, so I'm gonna get all this done off of camera, and then moving on to the final step G8, which will be the final assembly of the fuel lines and everything. And as you recall, I picked up the NOVAROSSI exhaust gas cooler right here, and that will be going in line like so. So I'm going to be finishing up all these steps off the camera, and then I will show you the final product of it finally mounted into the truck. So let me finish up step G6, G7, and G8, and I'll show you what it all looks like. Let's do it. Okay guys, check this out. The engine is finally installed into the truck. Wow. I need to soak this in a little bit here. Wow, man, I am so pumped up right now. Now, there are a few fitment issues I want to go over real quick, but as you can see, we went ahead and finished off step number 6, the pipe mount assembly, although I have not installed my exhaust hanger just yet. Finished up step G7, got the engine installed, got my gear mesh all set up, and before I go any further, I just have to get my exhaust hanger set up and my fuel lines installed, and I will be completed. But I just want to share with you what I had to do right here. I had to cut a section of the body out to allow for the exhaust pipe stinger to come out of the body. Alright, so just take that into mind. Alright, and I also had to notch out the chassis as well, as you can see right there, just because it was keeping the exhaust pipe a little higher than I would like, and it was resting right on the side chassis guards. And when you're jumping or going over any bumps, I didn't want this chassis to come up and flex and compromise the exhaust pipe. And you know, this spring right here that's joining the header to the exhaust pipe is a little close to the chassis, so I might notch that out a little bit, but I haven't got that far yet, and I'll have to see after I do some bashing to see if that's going to be an issue. But I just wanted to share with you that I did have to notch the chassis guard out, alright, which is not a big deal. And what I used to do that was a Dremel attachment on my drill right here. I didn't use my Dremel only because it's a little bit too high RPM. I was able to have a little bit more control with my Makita drill right here. So I put the sanding disc attachment on there, and I very carefully just marked where I needed to notch out my chassis guard right there. So you can see what I'm talking about right there. Notched it out. The fitment is very, very nice. And I used the same sanding disc on the body right there. Now moving on to the exhaust hanger. As you can see, this is the one that comes with the kit, and it doesn't quite reach my exhaust pipe here. So it's going to go into the mound right here and come over, and it's going to go into this hole. Unfortunately, this hanger is slightly too short, so I'm going to have to modify my own. So a good tip is what comes in the kit are extra sway bars, and it just so happens that one of the sway bars that comes in your eye bag that fits perfectly and is the same diameter as the exhaust hanger is the, let's see if I can focus on that, the 2.3. Alright, so as you can see, if I put that right in there, it fits perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this sway bar kit and basically cannibalize it, use it as a donor part. Probably never going to be using them because I'm using the 2.5s in the front and in the rear, so I won't be needing this one, and I think it's going to be the perfect thing to use for the exhaust hanger. It's very similar in strength to the stock exhaust hanger that they give you. You don't want to use anything like a regular coat hanger or anything like that because it's just not going to be strong enough to bashing, and you want to keep this as stiff as possible and keep it in place perfectly. So I'm going to modify this. It's going to take me a little bit. I'm going to get everything done. I'm going to get my exhaust hanger modified. I'm going to get the fuel lines installed with my exhaust gas cooler, and then we should be all finished with this step and finished with this part 6 of the build series. Alright guys, let's make it happen. Wow, okay guys, check it out. It's getting closer and closer to the finished product, and I am so excited about this. So I got everything fully installed here, and it took a lot of fine tuning, so I did a lot off camera. I've been working hard for the past hour or two, so let me share with you everything that's going on with this right now. So I finished step G5, G6, G7, and G8, all completed. The final installation of the engine is all completed, and next step on part 7 will be the installation of the wing, and I will be doing my wheels and tires over here. So I got my DE Racing rims and my PROLINE tires. But let me share everything that I just did off camera, and it was a lot of fine tuning, guys. So I finally have the exhaust hanger all set up here. This was the original one supplied with the kit that was way too short, and I modified that sway bar, that 2.3mm sway bar, and I had to make a slight angle here to go around the gas tank, and that came out phenomenally. As you can see, I have my fuel lines all hooked up. You do have to turn your fuel fitting on the carburetor facing down so that it will be in line with your fuel line right here. And I have my beautiful NOVAROSSI exhaust gas cooler all hooked up here. So as you can see, the return line going back into the gas tank. I installed some steel braiding on this part of the fuel line because it's going to be resting up against the cooling head and the block of the engine, so I didn't want to compromise that fuel line right there, and I think that worked out perfectly. As you can see, I have it zip tied to my air filter bracket right there, so that fits and stays in place perfectly. Very happy with that, very happy with that. Okay, so have the engine installed, fuel lines all hooked up, exhaust bracket. I have my cutaway here on my bottom chassis. Now let me share with you what I've been fine tuning. So I finally got to hook up the throttle linkage to the carburetor and get everything finalized. Now I had to go over some settings here on my DX3S. As you can see, I have my brake travel set at 43% and my throttle at 66%. So here I will show you how you want your throttle set up. So there's the carburetor right there, and you want it to open just about right there, almost to the edge of the venturi. As a matter of fact, it could probably go just a little bit more. So as you can see, let's set the travel just slightly more. I would say right about there is probably maybe one dial in, because you don't want to overextend that arm. So there we go. And I have my brake set at 69%, because you don't want to have too much throw on your servo. So got that all set up. Everything works phenomenally. I can't wait to get this beast fired up. I'm super excited about this, guys. So let me get the air filter installed and I'll show you the final product. Alright guys, got the air filter all installed right now. I did not put my zip tie on the carburetor right there, just for the time being, but I will do that as soon as I fire up this beast. But man, oh man, look at this beauty. I am so psyched up right now. I'm so happy with how everything turned out. This kit is a thing of beauty. I just can't wait. I just can't. I mean, I'm just gonna get the wings set up, the wheel and tires mounted. I'm gonna get my body painted, and then it's gonna be time to fire this beast up. So as of right now, I am really happy with how everything has turned out. This kit is definitely top notch, and I am really happy with it. Check it out, guys. Wow. Listen, I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope some of you found this build series helpful. This is the end of part 6 of the build series. Like I said, part 7 will be the installation of the wing and the wheels and tires. That shouldn't be too long of a video. I know some of these videos have been long-winded, but I just wanted to help some people out there that were curious on some of the issues with this kit and how to exactly build it. So that's about it for me, guys. Stay tuned for some fun parts with the wheels and tires and the wing, and I can't wait to get this body painted as well, so that's going to be pretty cool. But this part took a lot of fine-tuning, but I'm very happy that I got it all done, and I'm really happy with the installation of the engine, and I'm psyched up, guys. Totally psyched up. Check it out. Oh man. Alright, so I hope you're all making it happen out there in your RC worlds. And for now, this is Chris the Everyday RC Guy in TLR land saying thanks for watching, guys, and make it happen.